I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is Psychacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is be afraid of your fear. That is, be more afraid of the fact that you are afraid than of anything you might be afraid of. By using fear in this way, you can harness a powerful motivator for constructive behavioral change. So I'll tell you a little story. Many years ago, I wanted to overcome my approach anxiety. I wanted to be able to go up to the attractive women that I saw in the streets or in the bars and strike up a conversation with them, to get their phone numbers and ask them out. The problem was, of course, that when I saw an attractive woman, I would get anxious, hesitate in my approach, and get too in my head. Usually what would end up happening was that I would leave without saying anything, and that would generally cause me to feel very schmucky about myself. And even when I set the intention to overcome this approach anxiety, this would continue to happen. I'd put on my suit, get all hyped up, and go out to bars with the express objective of picking up women. However, when I got there, I couldn't screw up the courage to talk to a single one. I'd spend 2-3 hours in a bar and then go home feeling like a schmuck. This happened 5, 6, 7 times with the exact same outcome, and I ended up feeling so pathetic. I'd be back at home alone, lonely and beating myself up for being such a coward. And every time this happened, I would feel a little worse than the time before. But I didn't give up. Now, at some point, maybe it was the 8th or 9th time of going out, something changed. I was at a bar, and I saw an attractive woman, and I felt an authentic desire to approach her. So far, so good. And then suddenly, instead of the usual self-consciousness that would arise at this point, what came into my mind very clearly was everything that happens when I don't approach. The self-pity, the loneliness, the cowardice, the frustration, the despair. I knew for sure that if I were to succumb to my fear in that moment, that is what was in store for me. I knew that with 100% certainty because it had already happened 9 times in a row. Why would the 10th time be any different? And I began to feel afraid of that outcome. I began to fear feeling like a schmuck. This was interesting because fear contains a behavioral impulse to avoid. But by becoming afraid of the outcome associated with my avoidance, I was functionally avoiding avoidance. If I approached the woman, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if she was going to like me. Maybe she'd laugh or throw her drink in my face. But I knew for sure what was going to happen if I didn't approach her. At that moment, I became more afraid of that inevitability than of anything that woman could possibly have said or done to me. And that is how I began to get over my approach anxiety. I had to have a very specific, personal, and powerful aversion to doing nothing. It's not that women became any less scary at that point, but rather that I became aware of something even scarier by comparison. And I think this is generalizable. To do something scary, you kind of have to be even more afraid of not doing it. The consequences and meanings associated with not doing it. And the way to figure out what those are is to not do it and pay attention to how your aversion makes you feel. This will give you something to turn away from when the time is right. And it turns out, I've never had a woman so much as roll her eyes at me, let alone throw a drink in my face. Of course, I've been turned down a bunch of times, but that really isn't that bad. In fact, I can say with confidence that being rejected feels significantly less bad than feeling like a schmuck. I just had to get on the right side of fear. I hope that was helpful. If you like what you heard, drop a comment below. And if you'd like to schedule a consultation, you can reach me at psychackspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.